Hey everybody, Professor Snart here. I am just doing a little video kind of welcome, and I'm also typing at the same time. Just to say hi and welcome to our online English class here. I'm just logging myself into Blackboard, so hopefully you have been able to log in successfully and maybe have looked around the course a little bit. Hopefully have the textbook or at least have the information already. And I'll be doing lots of these video check-ins. They're very informal, unscripted, obviously. I'm in this very strange office right now with like no stuff and a moving box behind me. As many of you might know, we're in the process of moving a bunch of offices at COD. Half of one of the instructional buildings is closing, which is where my old office used to be. And so now I'm moving into this new space, but I'm not quite moved in yet. So it's still feeling a little temporary, and the echo is strange because there's nothing in the room really except me, the box, my bookcase that's empty filing cabinet that's locked and I can't even open. So anyway, a little strange to start off with, but I am recording this on Monday the 27th, so the first official day of the second 5-week term that we're in. So the first thing to draw your attention to is actually related to that 5-week term, and I'm going to click myself into our due dates here. I can't stress enough, given the really compressed time frame that we're working in. So a regular semester would be 16 weeks. We're down to 5, so we're really working at like triple the pace that we would normally be, which is tough in any discipline or no matter what you're studying, but I think is maybe doubly difficult. So that's like 6 times more. For something like English, where you have a reading and writing component that you're trying to complete for just about every assignment, and those things take time. It's hard to rush through reading, and if you rush through writing, then it really doesn't turn out very well. So it's really important, first and foremost, that you manage your time effectively. Just sort of stay focused for 5 weeks, and you should be okay. So the first thing to look at, in addition to if you've clicked through maybe the README first and some of the other things in our course here, is again just to look through those due dates. Just to be sure, like, don't look at just the next one that's coming up, which happens to be Friday, July 1st, Canada Day, for any of you Canadians like me out there. But be sure you look through them all and just see kind of how the class is paced, how it's spaced out. You can get a sense even from the due dates here of what kinds of work we're doing. And so, of course, in terms of how the class just operates, we're working through the due dates, and you'll find a units link here. And it's pretty self-explanatory, I hope. Within each unit, there'll be various assignments to complete. And, of course, you're completing those by the due date. So hopefully pretty straightforward. But if you're not staying on top of things, then you get a little behind and a little more. And again, in that compressed time period, a little bit behind turns into a lot behind, and then you're really scrambling. For certain kinds of work like discussion board posts, you don't get credit for anything that's late, so you really can't make up those points, so it just starts to accumulate really quickly. So it's kind of a dire welcome to the class, but it's good that I lay that out now so that you're really kind of super conscious of due dates, staying on task, completing things on time. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is sort of this very general idea. And it's pretty simple when you think about it, and everybody kind of knows this, but I think we forget that we know it. But is really can help make sense of kind of how the class operates. If you take something like, let's just say, a history class, and I'll take a really simple kind of stereotype example. You go to a history class, you take it online, and you learn a whole bunch of facts, lots of dates, when things happen. Someone was born this date and died this date. This battle took place on this date. So you learn lots of content. That's the easy part, right? And then you do a test, and it asks for when did such and such battle take place. And so you learn that in class, and then you just fill that in on the test. So in other words, there's this really clear connection between the coursework, the ideas or the material, the facts that you learn in the class, and then how your professor, how your instructor gets an idea of whether you learned that material Either you just get it right or you get it wrong. So you put the right date or you put the wrong date. So between coursework and assessment, there's this really clear connection in some cases. In English classes, sometimes it might not feel so obviously clear, but it really is. And this is what we all know, but sometimes we forget, and that I want you to really think about, is that everything that we cover in the class, even if it's not as simple as such and such a date, or this person was born on this date and died on this date, so that kind of factual stuff. We might not learn that exactly, that kind of material, but we still learn ideas or concepts or processes or certain formatting things or whatever it happens to be. That's the material that we learn in the class. And it doesn't matter if it's online or face-to-face or whatever. Ours happens to be online, but that's the material that you get in the units. So how do I then gauge whether you have learned that material? Well, it's almost always through the writing assignments, right? So instead of a fill in the date kind of quiz or test or assessment, I give you a writing test, so an essay that you write, for example. So of course what I look for in that essay is exactly the same thing that the history professor might look for in his or her assessment, is have you applied the course content or shown in that assessment that you've learned the course content. So when we learn stuff or when there's material that you work through in the units, don't just sort of do that and then think, okay, I have to write this essay or this discussion board thing, and those two are somehow disconnected all of a sudden. So you don't even think about, oh, I have to follow the models that we've learned, or I have to use the same kinds of examples or the same style or the same formatting or whatever it might be. Always think of those essays as the assessment mechanism that I use to see, has this student learned the material? Just like if I told you the Battle of Hastings was 1066 and then gave you a test, the Battle of Hastings was, and then you filled in the blank and it's either right or wrong. The same thing happens in essays. I can look to see fairly quickly, has this student learned the basic concepts that we've covered? So always be careful to connect the coursework to the assessment side. And like I said, it's really pretty simple to think about, but so often it seems that students just forget this basic concept and do the coursework, but then write essays that don't seem to be connected to that coursework at all, like they don't, as if the essay wasn't an assessment tool at all, when of course it is. It's assessing whether you've learned the course content. So that means, among other things, that paying attention to all of the material that's in the course is really important, whether it's examples or some of the notes that I've provided in there, or as you get more of these video announcements, there'll be lots of information in there that you want to pay attention to. So it's all there. It's just a matter of, can you reflect that you've learned it in the essay? So connect course content to assessment. Okay, so two major things to get us started. Be really conscious of due dates and exactly what's due on what date, and read carefully so we don't have that face-to-face classroom interaction to keep people on track, or where I can re-explain, or if you don't get it right away, you just kind of ask a question right then and there. So be sure to read carefully, everything carefully, not just skim and, oh, there's the important date. Okay, that's not going to get it done. And of course, if you do have a question, contact me. I'm available through email. I'm really good about responding almost as soon as I get an email if I can. I have information in our class about connecting with me through Skype if you want to do that, so we can instant message, we can video, we can just talk in real time if you want. So there's lots of ways to be in touch if you do have questions. So that's the sort of due date and question side. Make sure that's all in place. Pardon me. And then, of course, to really, as we begin to get into the course content, be really conscious that your writing for the course is working to show me that you're getting the concepts that we're covering, okay? So a couple of pretty basic things to start, but basic but really important. So I'll leave it there for now and let you get started into the course. And of course, weird. if you do have any questions, just be in touch. Don't try to figure it out or struggle or get frustrated. Just be in touch right away. If it's an IT problem, there's IT support that's available, and you can keep me in the loop if you're contacting them. So again, because of that compressed time frame, you really don't want to get bogged down if you're having technical problems, or just even if you're just sort of 99% sure that this is the right thing but not 100%. Just be in touch with me. It's no big deal. And it's better for your confidence for doing that work if you feel like 100% I know this is the right thing to be doing. So don't hesitate to be in touch. And logging to Blackboard often, I would say for a 5-week course, at least every day, maybe a couple times a day. Maybe nothing's changed, but maybe there's a new announcement, maybe there's new information that's up there. You want to stay really on top of things as much as you can. Okay, so kind of a long way to start, a long and rambling way to start, but I'll see you again within the next day or two. All right, be in touch if you have any questions.